Hello, welcome. And I thought this time try and get some resin in the dock scene. I've put some tyres already in there. Glue's just a little bit wet, I think, or just needs. I've put a few reeds in. These are like Woodland scenic reeds. Might need to just tidy them up a tiny little bit. A few of them are fallen over. Start to put a bit of scenery around the dock as well. Obviously the glue's got to dry. I've got some more 1970s, sort of 80s trash that people used to dump in there. I've just sprayed these silver at the moment, so just some shopping trolleys. I'm just going to probably paint the handle, I don't know yet. Might not bother. But I've got those to add. And I think they're about dry anyway now, yeah. So I'm going to add one into this area here, and maybe a couple just sort of dumped in the canal scene at this end. So I think if I put one right on the dock edge there, I'm going to use this. Oh, and there's the trolley. And you would have seen this all the time in the 70s and 80s. They're just really bad. So I want to make sure I've got as much detail in here as I can before I add any of the resin. That should come to about half of that height there. And I might do another one here. And somebody's thrown it in and it's landed on its end like that. And I think that's sort of enough sort of rubbish in there really. So as you can see, it should, once you've got a bit of resin in here, it should come up to about half that. The tyres should be just visible and things. So I think that's fine. I might try and find a little bit more scrap metal for there. The tyres came from a garage forecourt display. I never built the kit, I just used it for the tyres, and I've used it in a couple of canal scenes in the past. This is the last that I've got. So I'm going to start to get some screen along this front, so I can then, to stop the resin just falling straight out. So I need to get some plastic around there, and then see if we can get it to seal. Now for stopping the water coming out, I'm going to use similar sort of thing what I've always used, which is these Pico plastic wallets that the points come in, and it makes a really good sort of waterproof barrier, I've found. I don't need that. So I'm just going to cut these up into some pieces and get those on. And I've cut this one up now. And I was remembering before I used to just cut it into some strips and then thought I need to seal this corner. I went, well, these have got a perfect seal already on the corner. So all I've got to do is just glue those on, clamp them down, let the glue dry, and pour the resin. Obviously I've got to put a bit more along there, but that should actually be much better. I remember doing it on a harbour scene, and I was so worried about all the resin just pouring out this end here. So I think that's the best way of doing it. So I'm just going to get a couple of clamps, get some glue and get that on. Thought for that, just use some Loctite all-purpose. I think this should be okay. I have my hands. different clamp on this side. I might need more glue than that. So make sure this is, I'm going to pull the glue down, and I know this is definitely going to seal it. I can get a couple of different clamps as well. I will put a bit more glue along this inside once it's all dried, otherwise could have a disaster on the hands. I think that's all secure. I'm just going to put a thin layer just all the way around the inside. Give me peace of mind, make sure we're not going to leak. I'd rather use more glue than necessary. And a good dollop in that corner. Same on this corner here. Corners are going to be the weakest part. I've overlapped a good amount, so that should all be good. So I'm going to let all that glue dry before I even attempt the resin. I need to measure it as well, just see how much resin I do need. Right, I've just come back, just got a calculator on the screen from Woodland Scenics itself. I think it was 384mm for this size, or 354mm. I can't remember, I've just left the screen as well. But I'm not going to go back and look at it because I know it's a complete new item that I need. So this has got 354mm. So I'm going to use all of that on this scene, and hopefully it's enough and it doesn't pour out everywhere. But if you are going to use these, always read the instructions. I've used it 3 times now, and I read the instructions every single time just to make sure that I'm doing it right. And it does come with really good comprehensive instructions. I'm also, because this is the clear, I didn't want to buy the murky one because I've already got murky tints anyway, so I was just going to use that, and then I can vary it and how I want it to be, how murky I want this to be. I don't really want to see totally the bottom. I want to be able to just see sort of a fairly translucent feel to it, but not too much. But I think we're pretty, not quite dry actually, no, but I might leave that a little bit longer to properly dry before I even put any in. I might even put a bit more glue around this edge here as well. I'm just so worried when I come to do these that it will leak, but I don't think it will. It hasn't yet, and like that's the famous saying, yet. So let's just clamp that there, squeeze that in. I can see it squeezing it there. So but like I say, hasn't done it yet. But I've just boiled some water up to warm these bottles up, but I'm possibly going to wait for another hour or so all this glue to properly dry. Right, the glue has really gone off, seems. So I'm going to drop these clamps off and just have a good check. It does say in the instructions that you can put some water in to make sure it's watertight, but I'm pretty confident that is. So one of the things I haven't got is some foil to go over the top, so I'm not sure how much that problem that's going to be, and I just want to make sure that because like normally if it's cold weather and stuff, it's like you want that to keep all the heat in on the resin to help let it cure, but it normally just fits it and it only generates the heat for a few hours or so. And I think in the day, it's actually quite a warm day anyway, and it's about 22 degrees in here, so it's not going to be a problem. It's probably going to get warmer in the conservatory. So I'm going to put a bit of tape along the bottom anyway. I've got some duct tape, and I'll put that all the way along the bottom, just in case. Right, first thing I need to do is get these bottles up to a room temperature. Well, not room temperature, a nice warm temperature I should say. So I've just boiled the kettle. I've got enough for a coffee as well, so I'm going to put both these bottles in. It does say put them in a plastic bag that you get provided, but technically I don't really need to. I can just dry the bottles off before, and I'm going to pour them all into one of these cups anyway. So I'm going to leave that for about 10-15 minutes. Right, these have had plenty of time. Oh, I'm going to get a little bit of kitchen roll, just put those on. Right, these have had plenty of time now, should be warm enough, so I'm just going to, should be warm, not hot. Yeah, just nice and warm. Do with taking that, let's just, there's a bit of a try. Right, now it says just gently sort of mix them up for 5 seconds. Now, as I'm using the whole amount, I don't need to measure anything out, but there is a good guide in the book, in the manual, that sort of shows you if you're not going to use the whole amount. I've got this calculation correct, because it'd be a waste of resin otherwise. Still sealed. Now, I think it gives it 1 minute. And then I need to add the colour tint. Now it says 8 drops per 1.1 fluid ounces. And with the amount that's in there, it would be 96, and I know that would be way too dark. So I'm going to just sort of judge it, mix some in to start with. So I'm going to put something like about, I don't know, 20 in here. I think that was 21. I did shake this before, so you need to make sure that that's completely shook up. So let's just stir those in and just see how dark we've got. And not sure if I want it darker than that. I can still see a stirrer. So I'm just going to add about 5 more drops. Oops, 6. That's not too bad actually. So now this is the boring bit, stirring for 10 minutes. So let's come back. Right, I've given this a good 10 minutes, scraped all the sides as it says, make sure that there's no resin that's not mixed. And I'm going to give this a go. Okay, so here I go. I'm going to just pour a little bit in initially. I just want to see if we've got any leaks before I pour too much in. It seems to be all holding. Oops, that was me dripping. Right, before I pour the rest in, I just want to make sure that everything is okay. Right, I've had a very small leak, so I'll put an extra clamp on there. That seems to be stopped anything else coming out. I could just hear an odd drop hitting the protective floor, the bags that I put on the floor to protect it. So I'm going to put a bit more in. Right, I'm still getting a little bit leaking out there, so I'm going to need another clamp on there. It's just leaking out on this corner. It's where this DIN socket is, and I didn't have enough space. I probably should have just unsoldered the DIN socket. So let me get another clamp on there. Right, got a bit more clamps on there, a bit more emergency tape, and that seems to be holding it. I hope I can't hear any more dripping. I've only lost a small amount, which, so you can see, dripped on the bags to start with and then on there, so I'm hoping that that will be fine. I think that's really the right level. I did mix a bit too much up, so I've got this bit left. Not really sure what to do with that. I may make a couple of muddy puddles in part of the layout, but I'm just going to leave this for a while now. It does say cover it with cling film, not cling, aluminium foil. Only I've had a look and I've got no aluminium foil, so I'm going to have to just leave that. But let's come back and just see how we get on. Right, just a quick update on all the resin. Seems to be drying quite nicely. After initial little bit of a scare, there's a bit of a tackiness around where we did lose a little bit, but not much. So my plastic seems to have bowed in for some reason, so that's going to cause a slight odd edge. So I may have to sort of put a new piece along there and pour a little bit more inside. You know, how am I going to get that to match up? I don't know. And how bad's it going to look when I take the plastic off? So that's the only sort of glitch that I've had now. So, and it's looking okay. So obviously it still needs a lot more drying. It's going to be a little bit tacky, but I'm going to leave it about another 24 hours before I have a look at removing the plastic cover. And but the detail in there looks quite good. You know, you can see through and you see the tyres sunk down. I'm quite pleased with that. See how it looks tomorrow. Right, this is 24 hours later, and that seems to be all nice and solid. No air bubbles in there. You can just see the bottom, just. So you can see the tyres that I've actually got in there. So just focusing on there. So I've got to get this plastic off now. I mean, I've trimmed them down in the past, but on the N-gauge one it just peeled off. So, but I'm not guaranteeing this one is, because I did have the glue started to fail and I did get a bit more resin, especially on this section here where I didn't have much plastic to secure it, and it drilled onto my cables which are stuck on. Good thing is I've got to redo that wiring, so I'm not too fussed. But let's see if I can get this off. Hey, I'm not sure this is going to be ruin it. Or should I leave it to dry a bit longer? I think I'm going to have to trim it down, I was thinking, but that seems to have worked. Right, that's not too bad. Right, that the only thing I'm not like is the plastic did bow in a little bit, which I've never had that before, and it's given me this slightly odd edge. But I think once I've cleaned all this up, painted all this black, you're not really going to notice that, and so there's just a little bit of tidying up to do. I'm going to get the rest of this plastic off, and we'll have a proper look. So I've got all this just to get rid of. So I thought I'd just add a couple of little bits, put the doxine back in, and you can see it's like getting close to being finished. So it's just a little bit of tidying up to do. That sort of gives you an impression of how I wanted it to look. So some of the other bits I've been working on, I've been finishing off sort of the bridge sides, had the rest of the girders in. So all these pieces start on the road down. So now I need to do this piece. Some grass textures put in. Still need to get a bit more weathering on there. So I've also been doing the bit of the grass texture around this road here. So, and like I said, it's like weathering needs to be done. Start to add a bit of foliage. And the opposite end of the layout, start to add a lot more sort of interest into this corner. I tried to do these puddles. I'm not sure they've really worked that well, so I'm going to re-look at those a little bit more, but it's starting to get there. I still want to, so still a lot more work to do on the maintenance side, but I've done all the tarmac to the loading bay there, and there's a few more things to add into this. So I'm going to try and start to concentrate on the traction maintenance depot next, to try and get a feel and get some of those bits done. But yeah, I mean, it's starting to look much better, and then once I get the weathering on the track, I'll be a little bit happier on how it's coming out. So thank you for watching. Hope you've enjoyed this episode. It's starting to look okay, I think. You know, I'm quite happy with this. So I will wish you a very good evening or a very good rest of the day whenever you're watching this, and take care, and hopefully I'll see you again on the next video.